Good morning, Kingsley. Thank you so much for joining me on Hey Legal and doing some content for the Scottish Criminal Law Channel. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Surviving the pandemic so far.
Yeah, good stuff. Fantastic. Well, I think as this is the first one of the series that we're doing, I should give a little introduction to what it is that we're trying to achieve together. So basically, within Hey Legal and the Criminal Channel, what we're trying to do is create content that makes things easier for criminal practitioners. And in Scotland, obviously, a significant part of their life is interacting with the Legal Aid Board in relation to all sorts of aspects of their work. So we've agreed together to create some content that will be short, bite-sized content, video content that will help people and answer the questions of the day. So I'm joined by you now. I'm sure that our audience will know you very well. I see from this brief outline here that you've been working in legal aid administration since 1983, which is quite an achievement in itself. But I will give you a brief introduction. So Kingsley is the head of criminal legal assistance with the Scottish Legal Aid Board and has worked in legal aid administration since 1983. He manages a busy department which processes and takes decisions on all types of criminal legal aid from across Scotland. He's also responsible for the Criminal Quality Assurance Scheme and the board's court and police station duty schemes. So there's an outline there. Today's topic, Kingsley, is that we're going to talk about the forums and their current state and how SLAB can take suggestions about how their design can be improved. And the reason that we're focusing on this is that I have asked people across the profession for any, not issues, but anything they'd like to hear from SLAB about. And one of the recurring themes has been the forums. What can we do about the forums? So could you possibly just give an outline? You knew that was a topic we wanted to discuss. Just give me your thoughts in relation to that, please.
Well, when we talk about forms, we do have a number of forms, even though all the legal aid systems are completely online now. In fact, we recently celebrated, if that's the right word, the 10th anniversary of us switching off or no longer accepting paper applications. And I was thinking the other day, that really saved us, that really helped us during the pandemic. I'm not sure what we would have done if the pandemic had been 10, 15 years ago and how we would have processed the thousands of paper applications that we used to receive every week. So yes, it's a solely online application system. And more recently, the accounts have been fully online as well, which helps the profession. You save on postage, quicker decision making, and probably more importantly, quicker payments as well. So it's been a great system for us. But along with the online applications, there need to be a number of paper forms to gather the kind of information that we need to assess the applications quickly and not having to go back and ask for anything more. But they're also a kind of semi-legal document as well. It gives the opportunity for both the solicitor and the applicant to sign the declaration to say that they're looking for legal aid, and it's a record of the information that's submitted to us on the online system.
Brilliant. So one of the questions is, why are there so many of them for criminal cases?
Yeah, well, I often say when I go around the country talking about the criminal legal aid system, if you were designing a system of legal aid from scratch, you wouldn't come up with what we've got at the moment. But we are where we are. I think we've kind of maxed out everything that we can do in terms of amending the legal aid regulations. But the basic structure of criminal legal aid is quite complicated, and it harks back to the 1986 Legal Aid Scotland Act. So you have advice and assistance, you have ABOR, you have summary criminal, you have solemn criminal, and you have criminal appeals. Some of them with different tests, some of them even with different financial tests. So we need to have different mandate or declaration forms to ensure that we're only getting the right information for the right type of legal aid. The alternative would be to have one super form, if you like, which covered all the different criminal aid types. And I don't think anyone would thank us if we did that. So in recent years, we've tried to trim these forms down as short, make them as short as we can. And over the next couple of years, we're looking at developing our own internal online systems. And within that process, we will be looking again at these declaration forms just to make sure that we can make them as straightforward and as easy to understand as we possibly can have them.
Okay, so there is a 2-year program underway that's looking at updating your systems and the sort of information needed.
Yes, it's sort of 18 months, 2 years. We're starting on it. It's all the legal aid systems, not just the criminal systems, but obviously civil and the children's systems as well. I mean, it's a big project for us.
Okay.
And, you know, there will be plenty of opportunities for us to kind of get feedback from the profession about the kind of things that they would like to see. And there's still that opportunity just now. I mean, we often get emails or correspondence or just general feedback about why did you do this, why did you have that, and we're happy to get that feedback from the profession as particularly if we're looking to develop changes for the future.
Yeah, so obviously many of us have talked about the changes that have been implemented because of the pandemic, how the court systems are operating differently, and I suppose with all of that experience behind us now, and obviously now 10 years of Legal Aid Online, if there is a full initiative to reconsider all of this again, then there's a real opportunity to try to streamline everything to maximum effect.
Yeah. I think one of the things, in fact, one of the early concerns last March as we went into lockdown, one of the things that we were getting more phone calls about was getting clients to sign these forms. And there were obviously concerns about sharing pens and the like. And it was one of the first decisions that the board took in the early days of the lockdown, of the changes that we implemented, to say, well, during the lockdown, and it's still in place, that clients don't need to sign the declarations. Now, as we come out of lockdown, we'll need to revisit that, because it is a way of the client confirming that the information that's been given to us via the solicitor is correct. But that's not to say in future that we can't look at gathering kind of signatures or these declarations in different ways. The old wet signatures, as they're called. The technology is moving apace. There might be other electronic ways, there might be other ways that we can develop in terms of getting that kind of authorization without having somebody physically signing a form on a piece of paper.
Absolutely. What are the data capture forms for? That was one question.
Yeah. Well, there's a declaration form for each of the different aid types. So you've got solemn criminal, criminal advice assistance ABOR, summary criminal transfer. You've got 2 for appeals. The reason there's 2 is one has the financial information, one doesn't. And then we've got a separate form for the court-granted legal aids, contempt of court, section 23(1)(b), and then the various automatic grants of legal aid. Along with those 7 forms, yes, there's 2 data capture forms. There's one for police station, and then there's one for the summary criminal form. Now, the police station data capture form, it was developed when the police station scheme the new scheme was brought in place in 2018. We thought this was a form that the solicitor could take to the police station just to jot down their times. It's a reminder of what the fees are, but also it's a way they can get the key information from the client as well. Jot down the all-important police station reference number which you need to make your claim. And then when you get back home or you get back to the office, you can then make your claim with the information that's on the form. It's not a mandatory form. It doesn't need to be signed by anybody. It was there to help the solicitor jot down all the necessary information when they were at the police station. The second data capture form that we have on the website is to do with the summary criminal applications, and it's mainly to record details about the case category and the interest of justice factors. We thought that this, again, it's not mandatory. You don't have to use it at all. We knew that quite a few solicitors were maybe getting somebody else in the office, whether it was a secretary or another solicitor, at a later date to put their online applications to us. So this was a way of the solicitor to jot down the information which somebody else could input to us back in the office. We've heard stories of people maybe filling in these forms when they're in the bar common room or waiting in line for their case to appear at court. Just a piece of paper that they can jot down the information which they can take back to the office and either input it on the system themselves or give it to somebody else in the office to input. So they're not mandatory, they're there to help. And I suppose that is the other feature of the declaration forms. Although they need to be completed and signed by certainly the solicitor and the client in normal circumstances. And key information does need to be recorded in these forms and retained on the file. But we also designed them in such a way to make sure that you can get all the information which we need to assess the applications. I'll give you an example. In the financial sections of these forms, which were sometimes criticised for being too complicated or a bit long, but it's an aid memoir. It's to make sure the solicitor gives us all the information that we take into account. So, for example, the section of the form which asks for all the client's outgoings, it lists a whole list of things which we actually take into account. Now, whether it's just rent or mortgage payments, council tax payments, HP payments, loans, childcare costs, these are all information when we're doing the undue hardship test in summary legal aid and solemn legal aid. These are all things which we take into account and subtract from the client's net income. So it's a reminder to you to make sure that to ask the client, have you got these payments? Are you making these payments? Because that makes a difference to whether or not you're going to be eligible for legal aid.
Okay, fantastic. Well, this obviously being the first recording that we've done, and we're looking to do this routinely so that there's a good flow of information going to the profession. This outline you've given about forms is a great starting point. It would be good also just to discuss how the profession can go about giving feedback to SLAB. I should say that in relation to Hey Legal, they can contact Hey Legal at heylegal.co.uk and can provide questions to us, which we will obviously discuss and send on to you. But if you could just talk about how you would best receive feedback from the profession, just so that processes are improved.
Yeah, well, there's a number of ways. I think most people might know my own email address, thomaski@slab.org.uk. So I'm happy to receive these emails myself. There's ways on our website. There's a feedback form in the guidance section of our website, and I think there's also another way of sending feedback to us through the Legal Aid Online system as well. So by all means, you use any or all of these methods. Just talking about the guidance section, I think that's an important thing that we hope is useful to the profession. We've spent a lot of time recently updating all our legal aid, legal assistance guidance. We're in the process of updating our internal guidance, which we're also going to be publishing externally for solicitors to see, so that every decision area where we take decisions, the solicitors can see how we take these decisions, what our policies are, and how we take the decisions. So we're being open and transparent with all that. And I think one of the first major thing which came out of that was our approach to our recent changes to our approach to applying the interest of justice test in summary criminal and criminal appellate cases, where we consulted last year about changes, and we now, after a positive response to that consultation, we're now simplifying the system so that in sheriff court cases, we assume or we take it that a case now being prosecuted in the sheriff court satisfies the interest of justice test. Now that's hopefully eased a lot of the administration on solicitors. We no longer need information on that in sheriff court cases. We were only refusing very few, I think it was less than 0.1% of sheriff court cases on the interest of justice factors. So it made sense to do that. And these are the kind of things that we've consulted upon, and the kind of changes and the kind of simplification changes which we're keen to bring in and build on in the future as well.
Yeah, and I think it makes me think of British cycling, where they have marginal gains and just simply making smaller changes, an iterative process where you just improve something, improve it, and overall it just builds to a far more efficient system. So hopefully that's something that can be achieved.
Yeah, I mean, we've always been keen at the board, to look at ways of simplifying and making our systems more efficiently for the profession and for ourselves as well. And I think that interest of justice change was a win-win situation. Where solicitors don't have to give us as much information. It's quicker to submit your applications to us. It's quicker for us to assess the cases. So, and there's more certainty about getting legal aid in place for these cases. But yeah, small gains. But we hope that, to get some big gains as well over the next few years as we develop a lot of changes both to either systems or wider changes to simplify the system of criminal legal aid as well.
Yeah, well, that all sounds absolutely fantastic. So thank you so much, Kingsley, for the first recording that we've done. I think we've covered a lot of really solid ground there. I'm sure it will help those in their audience, and I look forward to them providing more information to us that we can perhaps discuss in future recordings.
Yeah, happy to do that, and thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.